Was this car harder to build than your 911 model?
No, this
seems very easy.
They're similar in scale.
Yes, I think they are the same scale.
But this one has substantially less Legos because it's not a dense car. It's a Formula One chassis with some appendages, right?
Yeah.
So it was pretty quick.
Pretty quick. It's really cool.
Yeah. I think it's cool to see a Lego that actually has some steering capabilities.
This looks like it has a windscreen.
It does. It has a little glass screen. And actually, one of my favorite details on it is that it's because this is the MP4-4. It's the 1988 McLaren.
Okay.
One of the most dominant F1 cars in history. And they put the little detail of the Tag Heuer logo on the windshield, which the MP4 had. So the watch brand Tag Heuer, which is cool. It's a little
like a see-through logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, neat.
Which I thought was cool.
It's way cool.
Pretty much Shell has the majority of the car. And they're trying to avoid the Marlboro topic with the McLaren logo here.
Yeah, they don't want to sell Marlboro to 10-year-olds.
They don't want to sell a pack of cigs.
Lego isn't into that.
Yeah.
That's a cool kit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get one. I saw that. I also saw that they have a little McLaren modern F1 car.
Yes.
Which is cool. It's $26.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm fine with it being 20.
Yeah.
But the 26, I'm like,
They're like, why was it $6 more?
Yeah, come on, dude. I went to the new Target by my house and I got more cars I was going to bring in for the studio. I got the Lewis Hamilton car, and you already have the Carlos Sainz. So
yeah, that's the.
Oh no, I got a Max Verstappen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just those cheap Burrago. Oh, is that what that one is?
But that one's the 2021 car. That's when he beat Lewis, so it's 33.
Ah.
Which is kind of cool.
Mine's a number 1, so I'll still bring it.
Yeah.
You can put it in.
They're different.
The thing that I like about those Barango brands, I feel like they're cheap, and so I can open the box.
Yeah, you don't have to feel bad about having them out.
Because we have the Spark. What brand is that one? That's an expensive
Spark.
one.
Yeah.
That's expensive. That's die cast.
It's like a $90 143 scale.
Remember when we were at Daytona? Was it in Daytona? And we were at that NASCAR shop, and I was talking to the old lady that was working at the NASCAR shop. If you've been to Daytona Beach,
yeah.
And they have these NASCAR
little stores there,
tourist shops packed full of memorabilia from NASCAR.
Yeah.
And I was like, are there model cars here? And she's like, die cast. And I was like, oh, die cast?
Okay.
They're die cast cars.
Yeah, the decast.
Decast. And each one is $200. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, she's like starting at $266.
You're like, I just want some Hot Wheels cars.
Is there
die cast?
Is there a significance to the number 266? Yeah. Oh, I got the perfect jacket for you. Remember we got called into that one store? She's like,
yeah,
got a perfect jacket for you. Come on inside, honey. We go inside. Every jacket's like $450.
Yeah, they're like, but it's half off, so it's only $300. It's still a lot of money that I'm not spending.
Can you do math? $450. Half would be $220. Anyway,
I'm not buying this.
We're good.
We're too much money.
Thank you
for this. Leather ripoff of like a Jeff Gordon jacket.
An old Jay Gordon Rainbow Warrior.
Yeah, exactly. Just proof that we know who Jeff Gordon is.
We just
Rest in peace.
DuPont. The DuPont.
It's nice to be in business.
All right.
At a record pace.
Get 70 miles to the gallon on this.
If he was like all sassy about his life. You did this, Glock.
Glock, you
ruined my life.
Why you always trying to ruin my life? Timo Glock.
What a jam, dude. What a jam. Yeah, we're landing. Welcome to the Fast Ones.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, my name is Max. I'm here with Mike.
How's it going?
And it's going good.
Good.
Every week we talk a little bit about Formula One and motorsports. And there's a lot of motorsport to talk about. No, we were just talking about this Lego model car.
Yes.
Which is fun. I would suggest, so this is
newly acquiesced
model to a lot of cars that we're going to eventually show off. I like this idea of putting them on the table.
Yeah, this is a fun new spot for us to kind of play with, for sure.
But I have a new friend who's new into Formula One, and he was texting me a week or two ago. It was just after the Australian Grand Prix, and he was like, dude, do I need to get into like Legos, and he was sending me like Lego kits, and I was like, dude, get them. They're super fun.
They're so fun.
And he's like, I've never really been a Lego guy, but he got one. He sent me a picture. I think he got the McLaren F1 Lego build. Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah, okay.
And it looked really cool. It's not this McLaren.
No,
it's the smaller one.
Which I wonder if
it's the orange one.
They have one that's like a Formula E. They might have a Formula 1.
They have the new Formula 1 this year.
Okay, yeah,
and that's what he got.
And it's a little smaller model. That's cool.
Yeah, they're really fun to build.
I mean, I have done models, which if I mean, we haven't really talked about the models. Maybe we feature it later on another day.
The one you built,
the one that I actually built and painted,
like hobby level models.
Hobby level model,
yeah.
Which I did twice, and on the second one I gave up about 85% of the way there, and moved houses, which just put a nail in that coffin. But it is so hard and time consuming.
Those ones are hard. They're the you have to snap out the pieces and then glue them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
and if you take it to the level that I did, which was painting all the pieces and stickers and which they're water transferred like decals, and like if you slightly mess it up, it'll tear. It's like, oh my gosh. But I got a Tamiya, and anyone who does model building will know and recognize that name. Tamiya kits are the best. And so it went together correctly, which a lot of the kits, apparently, if you don't buy Tamiya, are tricky in that way.
Interesting.
But I find these to be extremely therapeutic.
These are very fun.
They're fun.
If you're new to Formula 1 and you want to do something that's in the toy world to keep you excited about it, dude, the Lego builds are fun.
They're awesome.
I bought we had it on the show maybe.
Yeah.
The big, if you watch old episodes, it's in our old studio, the big orange Techniques, the Lego Technique McLaren car. And that took weeks.
It was an intense build.
Those are intense, but they're not as hard as those model kits because it's still just Legos and it's a guide.
Right.
But they're dense cars and they're fun. But
you learn to appreciate Williams mechanics by building a Lego Technic version of an F1 car.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't imagine Logan Sargent taking this from me after I'm done with it and destroying it and bringing it back to me. It's a new level of appreciation.
Maybe we were being too harsh on Alpine. But then I'm like, if I could build this, maybe I should be working for Alpine and do better than what they're doing recently.
It seems as though there's something to that.
There's something to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, today we have some listener questions. We're going to talk about the Chinese Grand Prix, which is this week.
It's coming.
I've never seen a Chinese Grand Prix before.
Many people have not.
So Mike has prepared some stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Which I'm excited to learn about the Chinese Grand Prix. But to kick it off, is there any news in the world?
I mean, I think the biggest news was something that we talked about last week, but we have an answer. Fernando Alonso has extended with Aston Martin.
That's right.
And that is an answer to what I would consider the biggest lingering question of the paddock.
Yeah, last week I put a gun to your head metaphorically and asked, like, who would you think Carlos Sainz is going to go to? And you said Aston Martin.
Right.
So I'm not going to ask about that quite yet, but what does that mean for Alonso going to Aston Martin?
And continuing.
Does that mean Lance is still going to continue at Aston Martin?
I mean,
what's his contract doing?
Pedro de la Rosa in the most recent F1 Nation podcast was asked the same question.
Yeah.
And his answer was, what's the reason? Why wouldn't Lance continue?
Yeah.
At times he's got moments during the race where he's faster than Alonso and it jogs back and forth is the way that he put it.
Yeah.
To this point, I mean, we've said it in the past. They would definitely be further in the championship constructor wise.
Yeah.
If somebody was able to match Fernando's pace. In some capacities, is it realistic to expect that anyone could? I don't know.
Yeah.
Fernando's a pretty...
that also is a good question.
Yeah.
We put Lance down.
Right.
But Fernando's really good. Can anyone that would have an open seat, like an open contract now, compete with Alonso?
It's actually up in the air whether or not I could say that Carlos Sainz, as much as I like him, could do what Fernando does with the Aston Martin. And in some ways could be very damaging to his career if he can't.
Yeah.
You know?
So Alonso's contract is for how many years?
So he has to my knowledge, he has a 2-year extension.
So 2 more years.
Which will mean he will race till he's 45.
Which is crazy.
But also, the contract extends beyond that. So he has like an option to continue or to become an Aston Martin ambassador from there on. Yeah. So this is the longest Fernando Alonso contract ever.
That's so crazy to me. He's
Yeah.
never had something longer than 2 years.
Nope.
Even at Renault, when he was winning championships with Renault.
No, because you remember he takes that did 2 championships back to back with Renault, and then went to McLaren.
Wow. And Renault didn't have like a 2-year contract when he was there, just like maybe 1 year. Or,
I'm
I guess
guessing.
so. Yeah. And he just got him. Wow.
Right, back to back championships. Went to McLaren. Lewis won the battle of politicisms, and Fernando left and went back to Renault. And so, but from there on, Fernando's career has been very move around team to team to team.
Yeah.
And he was with teams for a long time, like Ferrari.
But there was never.
But the term of the contract wasn't that long.
Wow, that's
pretty crazy.
That is crazy. He's a great driver. That shocked me.
I mean, it was. I think it was always him. That wasn't willing to sign long-term contracts. Yeah, I don't think it was the teams. Yeah, it was always like, I want it out.
Yeah. So you think if Carlos Sainz, does he still go to Aston Martin, or is there another better spot for him?
I mean, I've heard rumors that Carlos Sainz could end up taking a sabbatical, take the year off.
Oh, you think?
But we all know that's sketch. There's no guarantees. I mean, it's even crazy. Sebastian has talked about coming back, and a lot of the teams are like, "Yeah, we're not really looking at him."
Yeah,
and it's like
Vettel.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you mean you're not?
Yeah,
it's a 4-time champion.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But the options are there's just an absolutely enormous bag of drivers who want to be in the sport.
Yeah.
Including the ones who are in it.
It's a big risky move if Carlos Sainz takes this battle. It's the first time I've heard about it.
Right.
If he takes a break, why would you take a break? You're hot right now.
Yeah.
You pretty much have your pick of all the teams that have an open seat.
He's definitely, I mean, look, I think that it makes logical sense that Mercedes is trying to wrangle Carlos.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there is an Audi tie, if there are ways to get him over to that team, the Mercedes relationship might sour the Audi relationship. These are two German powerhouses.
Yeah.
And picking one over another at this point might be a mistake, which is where the sabbatical comes in. Does he wait for Audi to have their own power plant, come into the sport in 26 strong, sit out 25, as opposed to taking a 1-year deal at Mercedes, allowing Andrea Kimi Antonelli to do a season at Williams. Those are kind of the way that Mercedes would be trying to play that. So the Carlos Sainz saga continues to,
everyone's speculating.
Yeah. And Max Verstappen isn't nailed down. A lot of people are kind of expecting him to maybe go to Mercedes.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why do I just assume Max is going to Red Bull? I didn't know he wasn't nailed down.
I mean, he is. His contract here, I have it.
His contract is to be best friends with Christian forever, right? I think that's part of the deal.
That was the old contract.
Yeah. Until Joss had to say in it.
Verstappen's contract goes until 2028.
Okay.
With Red Bull.
Forever.
But he's a world champion.
Yeah.
Which means that this is a piece of paper. I get the final say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although he's signed all the way to 28, there is a rumor going around that the deal at Mercedes is going to happen because Toto Wolff has told Max Verstappen that he can bring Helmut Marko with him.
That is wild to me.
Which would just be an Austrian superpower between Toto and Helmut.
But what's Helmut doing?
I don't know.
It's not like he's bringing technology to the table.
No.
It's Adrian Newey that you want to bring from Red Bull.
Right.
Hey, Max, you can bring Helmut Marko with you. Can I bring Adrian Newey? No. Well, then why would I want to come over? I think long contracts are kind of scary.
Right.
Charles Leclerc.
Multi-year is all we know.
But like he was locked into Ferrari for 6 years. Didn't he have that insanely long deal? Which is crazy now thinking that Fernando wasn't getting one or didn't want one. And Sebastian Vettel didn't get it.
Right.
But Charles Leclerc has just kind of like had to be with Ferrari.
Right.
Through crappy years.
Through struggles.
Yeah. And to think that, right now Red Bull is doing great. They're crushing it.
Right.
And so it's fun to think that maybe all the way to 2028, Max will just be champion.
Right.
And destroy all the records. But if the car starts to suck, which it can, Mercedes is sucking right now.
Right.
Then he's stuck in a crappy car.
Right.
But we know contracts aren't really anything.
No. And I mean, something about what I would say is like, look, like the Lewis Hamilton, when people would say he's the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
a lot of us,
Yeah.
the others,
Uh-huh.
would always kind of refer to it as like, well, he's in the most dominant car.
Uh-huh.
And yes, he's crushing.
Yeah.
Valtteri wins a lot of races
Yeah.
and gets a lot of pole positions.
Yeah.
And it was ham-bot, but at the same time, there was a fair amount of Bottas wins during Hamilton's time.
And you watch a lot of those other races where Lewis won. There's a lot of those where it's team orders, Bottas, can you let Lewis pass?
Right.
And he made me mad because he was constantly just letting Lewis pass.
Right.
There was
right.
never a big battle between those two.
Right.
And that was frustrating during those dominant eras because I just wanted some competition.
Something.
And Bottas never gave it to us.
Right.
But no, if he could have been just as dominant or competitive as Lewis. So
right.
Lewis the GOAT?
Right, but in the same in the same breath though, I think that like what we kind of always were saying is like, oh, the car.
Mm-hmm.
And we get Lewis into a crappy Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing it now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing George Russell more competitive on occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not that's Lewis giving a damn is the debatable part of this. Does Lewis actually care to perform this season at all? Yeah. Or is he just sort of being like, we talked about it last week where he was like, shall I let George pass?
Oh gosh.
You know? So part of me almost wonders that. But here's where I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have said, Lewis, if you want to prove that you're the GOAT, take a team from nothing to something.
Yeah.
Which is what Michael did. Michael went from Benetton to a Ferrari that was not winning.
Yeah.
And then fought through a tough period with Ferrari to the most dominant period of Ferrari's existence.
Yes.
So a lot of people were like, that's what made Schumacher great.
Yeah, he has that under his belt.
Was his willingness to go to a team that was being defeated.
Uh-huh.
And Lewis has signed with Ferrari, but they're in the best form.
They're pretty good right now.
Decades,
yes,
right?
They finally kind of figured some things out.
Their trajectory
They're looking better
is
than they
in the
used
most
to.
positive ever.
Uh-huh.
And so, but look, I'm not going to hate on this move. I still think it's an awesome thing. I'm excited for it. But where I could see Verstappen taking a sort of alternate route to being a historical legend of F1 is being like, I am going to bow out from the best team and I'm going to go to an undesirable car and see if I can take that car to a championship.
Can you imagine if Max went to if Max went to Mercedes and then beat Lewis more?
It would kind of blow my mind.
Lewis so mad.
It would make all of us mad, I think.
but be fun to watch.
But we'd also all kind of have to be like, respect.
Like,
mad respect for this.
And how mad would Lewis be?
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
It'd be crazy.
So mad.
But I think that like Max, where he said, he's like, I don't really have the interest in beating the record for most championships. I don't really have the interest in being in F1 until I'm 45. Yeah. Those things don't interest him. So is there some dynamic of this that actually plays into a Max Verstappen narrative?
Could feed that desire.
Yeah.
That could be like really interesting to him.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
And where the Red Bull relationship has gone so sour, it's like, maybe this is on the table. I think a lot of people have taken the value out of this conversation and been like, nah, there's no way.
Yeah.
But a part of me feels like if Max really doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a dude who stays up until 3 a.m. The day of the race, like that morning, playing iRacing.
Are you serious? He's up. That's like a thing?
The night before the race.
He's not like sleeping in?
No, he's up gaming.
Gosh.
Live streaming.
That is crazy.
So like
either he's a machine.
He is a machine.
And also that car's insane.
Yeah.
That he doesn't have to really worry.
But he also is just DGAF guy.
Yeah.
A little. And so a part of me feels like, don't rule out a move.
Interesting.
I feel like it's totally possible.
That's crazy.
So if that happens, I think Carlos Sainz might be poised to replace Max.
At Red Bull?
At Red Bull.
Because Helmut Marko would have left. And Helmut and Carlos don't like each other.
And Christian knows Carlos from being a Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
A young driver. So, I mean, more to come.
More to come.
This is a very early season, silly season.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to prove still. And I just think that we haven't heard the last of what's going on at Red Bull.
Cool. I saw a fun statistic that Daniel Ricciardo is the only driver to have driven for all of Red Bull's teams. Toro Rosso, Red Bull,
AlphaTauri,
now Visa Cash App. Yeah.
That's actually hilarious.
Yeah.
That's a wild stat.
It's a weird record.
Yeah.
Well, this week, I'm excited to see more of the season play out in China.
Yes.
Shanghai? Cool.
Yes.
I think I've mentioned it before. I've never seen a race in China.
Right.
Because it hasn't been on the calendar since before COVID.
2019.
Yeah, and that's kind of when I started watching. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the fans, that was kind of the boom, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people refer to COVID as sort of the turning point for F1.
Yeah. So let's get into the China Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I do not know anything about it.
So it's cool.
Is it what's cool?
So let's get into it. This circuit was built in 2003 and then introduced into the calendar in 2004.
Okay.
So it is just as old as Bahrain. They were the two, that was their, 2004 was the season where both of these tracks got their first race.
Okay, cool.
Likewise, one of the things that we saw in Bahrain was that the track is super abrasive.
Okay.
So tire deg is really high.
Mm-hmm.
China, same deal.
Same deal.
This is an old asphalt circuit.
Is that just kind of common if it's older?
Yes, if they haven't been resurfaced.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the other thing about this, though, is that they haven't been to this track now also for 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's 5 years of absolutely no data.
Oh, okay, yeah.
On tire deg
and on the new car regulation.
On new regs.
There are drivers that haven't driven on it.
Have never driven it.
Ooh.
So there is the last race.
Could have some slippery drivers crash into each other.
Right. The last race was the 1,000th race of Formula One's history.
Okay.
It was number 1,000 Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
And Lewis Hamilton won.
Of course.
Bottas second.
Of course.
Vettel third, Verstappen fourth, Leclerc fifth, and Gasly in sixth.
Okay.
The grid looked a little different. These people weren't on these teams.
Yeah.
That you think they were.
Gasly was at AlphaTauri.
I think he was a Toro Rosso at this point. I think Albon was actually teammates with Max in
2019. Daniel Ricciardo was at Renault.
In 19? Yeah.
I don't know. You're the genius here.
Or maybe, because in 18, that was when he signed the contract to go to Renault.
Mm-hmm.
Which would have put... Oh, so Gasly might have been a Red Bull at this point, unless this is after the summer break. Here's some things that we cannot remember. But that's how freaking long ago this race was.
What kind of circuit is this? It's like a track. I don't know. For some reason, I know street circuit.
Right.
And the other one.
Yeah, this is a racetrack.
It's a racetrack.
That's
the terminology
racetrack.
I should be familiar with.
Yeah, totally.
Racetrack means it's built to race and it's wide swooping corners.
And in the US, because we have NASCAR uses ovals
and speedways.
And so they have something called a road course, which is a F1 racetrack because it has lefts and rights. Does that make sense?
So if I'm in America,
it's a road course.
This is a road course.
Yes, but
which is different than the Las Vegas street circuit.
Right.
Because the street circuit's narrow.
Right.
It's the
you're sharing the road.
The edges of the track are the buildings.
Yeah, are literally curbs.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, so
proper curbs.
Gotcha. It's a racetrack.
This is a designated racetrack.
It's a proper racetrack.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
And was built in 2004. The number of laps they run here are 56.
So that means it's a big old circuit.
Yes, it's about 3.5 miles.
I still get surprised every time I'm watching the overview of each race.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a 3.5 mile race around the track. I was like, that's a long way.
It's
and
huge.
I forget, and they're doing it in a minute.
Yeah.
Ugh,
yeah. And it's like, think about NASCAR at Talladega or Daytona.
Uh-huh.
It's a 1.5 2 mile racetrack, but it's a big oval. It still takes them about a minute and a half to go around one of those.
Yeah.
And so when you think about F1 cars that could do all these twists and turns in that time, pretty nuts.
Yeah.
The lap record here is held by Michael Schumacher. He got it in 2004.
Oh.
And it's 1:30. So like you said,
it's like first year it was open.
Yes, exactly.
Michael Schumacher hit it and never went.
And then it was done.
Dang.
So, but what's really cool about this track is one of the things that I like about it is that the front straightaway, and on the opening lap, it's chaos, which is great. Yeah. But the front straightaway comes down into this turn one.
Mm-hmm.
And turn one is this massive, like 270 degrees swoop. It's just a big right-hander. and it just feels like it goes on for an eternity. And the camera angle is cool because you see them start in one direction and come all the way toward the camera.
Okay, cool.
And then it does like a little hook and then back around. But it's just a really cool first corner, and it's unlike any other turn one. And so that's one of its most iconic pieces of the track. In the last race that we had here, Albon bended on the last corner before the straightaway.
Okay.
And it is a brutal spot to crash. It's similarly like Australia. There's a wall there that puts you back on the track.
Okay.
And so he obliterated a Toro Rosso.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, Gasly was teammates with Verstappen because I remember what car Albon had.
Sounds like
in this
Albon
crash.
crashes a lot.
Yeah. He does that. I wonder if Williams is like, what happened the last time we were here?
Yeah.
Oh,
Look
no.
at the data. Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. It's not looking good.
Alex!
We just barely got this new chassis.
Well, and that's the other report that's a rumor is that Logan might be in trouble. They might be replacing him
Again?
mid-season
Oh, as a driver.
as a driver.
Oh, poor Logan.
So,
Poor America. We're losing.
I mean, and
We are not showing a
I'm
well.
like, you're going to replace
a
a guy when you took him out of a race?
Yeah.
Without even a choice?
He didn't even score points in Australia. It's like, you didn't let him drive.
You took his
Because
car?
your other driver crashed.
You took his car and gave it to someone else?
You're not making any sense, Williams.
But pretty nutty.
Dang, sorry, Logan.
So anyways, but I remember that pretty vividly.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, that's a pretty brutal little corner. It's like a sharp, not quite 90-degree left onto the front straightaway. But you're trying to take that as flat out as you can so that way you can get to the DRS line and open it up and attack down the straightaway. So that's a really cool part of the track. But anyways, this racetrack is actually, it's pretty flat, but they've designed it in a way that it does have a little bit of elevation change throughout the lap.
Okay.
And so it's interesting because it is kind of just in a very flat area,
Yeah.
but it does have some dynamic to it.
Okay.
And so anyways, it's going to be an interesting circuit for strategy because of the high deg.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen it in 5 years.
Yeah, you have new drivers driving on it.
They brought a softer compound than they ran last week to this race. And this weekend is a sprint race.
It's our first sprint race of the year.
And they decided to do it at a track that they haven't been to in 5 years.
Nice. We could see a lot of shakeups.
When Max was asked about this, they said, how do you feel about it? He's like, I don't think it's a very smart thing to do. And I was like, well, that's what the guy who wins all the time would say.
Yes.
When he's not guaranteed
He wants
a
to
W.
protect his title.
Exactly. And it's like, this is a huge opportunity for the other teams.
If you haven't watched any races this year, this is the one.
This is definitely
to
going
get in on to be like, what's it like? Yeah, this is a fun one.
It could be full of dark horses. Daniel Ricciardo actually won an 18
Okay,
for
nice.
Red Bull.
Yeah.
So even just to say that, like, in your most dominant Mercedes period, which is 2018, is definitely in that window.
Hamilton.
A Red Bull won the race.
Okay, cool.
And so, but one of the things, just as a small side note, as I looked at as I went back to find the stats for who won races over the past couple years, when people say that this season is boring because Max wins all the time.
I'm saying that right now. Mike, what would you say to me?
You're an idiot.
Great comeback, Mike.
Loser.
I'm glad it looked like you studied for this response.
Got him. Okay. In 2019, Lewis Hamilton finishes the race.
Okay.
Valtteri Bottas is 6.5 seconds behind. Vettel was 13 seconds behind. Verstappen in fourth is 27 seconds behind. Fifth place is 31. So Leclerc was actually kind of close to Verstappen.
30. Oh, this is from the leader.
From the leader.
Okay, I think in between each.
We're not even through the points yet. Sixth place is Gasly, 89 seconds
Over
off the lead.
Minute.
A minute and 20.
A
almost
minute.
A minute and 30, almost.
Right now, it is not like that.
No.
Okay, keep going.
Ricardo, 7th, a lap down. Perez, 8th, a lap down. Everyone from there on had been lapped.
Oh my gosh.
So when everyone talks about this being boring,
not even the top 10 is being lapped.
Being lapped up to 6th place.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
This was what it was like before the new regulations.
Yeah.
And when people are like, how do you watch this? And the leader's 30 seconds out of the lead. I'm like, get out of my face.
Yeah.
These are some of the best races I've ever watched.
This is why when the year started out and people were like, Lewis was never this dominant. And I'm like, I remember minute gaps.
Just being so...
Was it in my brain? Maybe it was a Mandela effect. Maybe I was watching a different Formula One season from everyone else, because I remember in 2020 and 2021 some huge
ridiculously dominant races.
Jeez, that's crazy.
So just to put it in perspective,
we
have not had a race where they're lapping into the points.
Yeah,
since the new regulation.
I think, what is it right now? Like maybe the back.
Oh, like
5?
Still like to maybe 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah, like exactly. The bottom 5 are usually the ones that are going to get lapped.
Yeah.
And even then, there's some tracks where I feel like it still doesn't even happen.
Doesn't happen, yeah.
And so just to put it into perspective.
Yeah, calm down.
Unbelievable
down.
dominance in this period.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm like, it's hard to even compare.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, we get such great racing throughout the entire field. And then to put that again into another layer of perspective, none of these people are battling with each other. There's a 7-second gap between Bottas and Vettel.
Jeez, that's a boring
There's
race.
a 14-second gap between Vettel and Verstappen.
That is really awful.
It's like, we're not even talking that these people are in the same climate.
Yeah.
You know, they're in a different time zone.
That also, it's probably part of that new regulation that helps too.
Right.
Where you can be closer to cars.
Definitely.
Right? The arrow is like helping cars pass each other and sit closer behind cars.
It's for sure in tandem.
There's a lot of things that have helped it, because that sounds terrible.
It's two things.
Yeah.
It's definitely the arrow regulation, but in tandem with the budget cap. Where this is the time period where Mercedes would dump $500 million into their season.
Jeez. Yeah.
Some people said that they would creep up to $800 million.
Far out.
Just to be the most dominant team.
That is a big, huge chunk of change.
The teams are limited to...
And when we talk about Haas...
Yeah, they had like 80 million.
Yeah.
And you're like, these guys are 10x the budget.
Jeez, man.
It's crazy.
That's very crazy.
So to be able to see this come to fruition in the way that it has, this is where the longtime F1 feeling goes into attack mode.
Yeah.
When some NASCAR fan goes, we're 30 seconds in the lead. And I'm like, I've watched enough mile-and-a-half races where that happens. So that's NASCAR is not exempt from that.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
But also the F1 guys have literally flipped this sport on its head with that regulation.
Jeez.
So proof in the pudding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is a crazy, crazy stat. What is the flattest track? This is way off topic. You talk about China has there are some elevation changes.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, what would you guess is the flattest track? Is it like Abu Dhabi?
It's probably...
Is it like a Middle East race?
Yeah, I was going to say Qatar comes to mind. Abu Dhabi comes to mind. Saudi Arabia comes to mind.
Are they still trying to put little hills in?
If they're there, they're pretty minor.
Yeah.
Pretty minimal. But if I were going to guess what has the most, it's probably Spa.
Okay.
Spa and the Red Bull Ring are probably competing for the most elevation change. And then close third would be Interlagos, Brazil.
Okay.
Those are, we're talking 3 of my favorite racetracks for that reason.
You love the elevation
I
change.
love hills. It just makes it interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But China has some dynamic to it, even though it is a pretty flat circuit.
Cool. That's exciting. Has China always been kind of mid-season F1?
I want to say
we're not even mid-season.
No.
We're like early season still.
It's been for at least the time period of the previous, pre-COVID years.
Yeah.
It was really close to the front end of the calendar.
Okay.
Because it would go Australia to China.
Gotcha.
Japan is usually in the fall. That was usually Suzuka would be raced in the fall.
Okay.
And this year was one of the first times we've ever done a spring race.
You mentioned that in the last race when we talked about the logistics of Formula One and how they're trying to get better at keeping things in the same quadrant of the globe.
Right.
So that they're not wasting so much money and burning so much carbon into the
right,
air,
and a lot of that carbon
traveling around.
neutrality. So like, well, if you're flying all the way across the world for one race.
Before they were just like being like, ooh, and we should be in Japan, and during fall it's beautiful, and in the spring we'll be in China. That's great. And they're just like going back and forth.
And then they're like, and then you're in Mexico, and then you wake up and you're in Abu Dhabi.
Can you imagine how beautiful that would be? You have burritos in the morning, and then you're like hummus in the evening. Oh, so it'll be great.
And Bernie Eccleston's like, and don't pay my taxes. That was the old way.
Yeah, they're getting smarter.
Yeah, they're definitely more eco-conscious.
Cool. Okay, so who do you think could take Max out at this race? Do you think there is a shakeup possible? And would it be Carlos Sainz?
Could be. I mean, I think the Ferrari are poised to be the ones who upset the entire season. Right now, if Carlos Sainz hadn't missed Saudi Arabia, good chance he's in second in the championship.
Yeah,
right now he's just behind Charles in fourth.
Oh, crazy.
So if he had podiumed or potentially even won, I mean, he was on course through practice to threaten for pole in Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
So there's a chance that if he could have won, he'd be maybe first.
He'd be doing, oh, wow.
But now Max and Carlos both have a DNF, which actually puts them kind of close-ish in points if Carlos can win another race.
Yeah, but that...
We'll see.
We'll see.
So, but anyways.
I was going to say, last year I was just so focused on Haas suffering from tire degradation. What team is what team is the strongest against degradation? What team has the best? Red Bull.
Yeah.
Dang it.
But Ferrari this season has proven to be pretty on par.
Yeah.
Where Charles was able to make a one-stop work in Suzuka.
Okay.
On a set of mediums that he made last like 40 laps, 50 laps.
Yeah.
So the Ferrari has definitely caught up in some regard to what the Red Bull can do in tire deg. So this race will definitely be kind of we'll see who strategizes best.
Yeah.
And again, that turn one is chaotic in China.
Is it?
And you've got sprint race, and you've got a lot of X factors of like, what's the deg look like? How long does it take to rubber up? The circuit could really throw a lot of curveballs. So that means that some people might crash.
Yeah.
And that's going to make it so there's less parts available or less time to fix the car. There's less practice sessions in a sprint race weekend.
Sprint race,
which means that there's just a good opportunity to get it wrong.
Seems like a big, like, volatile weekend.
Yeah.
A lot, like, is up in the air.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
I mean, if you're a betting man, you put your money on Red Bull. But I think that as a fan, I got my money on just anything else.
Anything else. Yeah, it'd be fun to have the first real big shakeup of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be
and just
great.
see if we can get a podium that had nothing about a Red Bull.
It'd be fun to have the two Red Bulls crash out and just have another.
Perez, come on.
Yeah.
Do us all a favor.
I'd love Haas to just like randomly find their way to the top of the pack.
Yes.
That's the goal for me.
That's
the dream.
They're poised.
Cool.
It still seems like they're kind of the best of at least that group.
I love that they're fighting in the mid-pack.
Yeah.
They're going to beat Mercedes, which is crazy.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
It is funny that Mercedes is kind of...
Man, I almost wish... I know that I was killing it, but I almost wish Gunter was there to kind of... Just to throw it in Toto's face. Because you know he would. He would not hold back at all.
It'd be great.
He'd be like, how does it feel, Toto?
Yeah.
Eat my dust.
Yeah. I love that. You're $1 billion company.
Yeah.
We're making these in like storage units outside the park.
Yeah. We have a taco truck.
Shifting gears, moving right along.
Yes.
Coming to our listener question of the day.
Let's do it.
Our listener question comes in from... So this past week, my dad passed away, and he was a massive fan of the show.
He's the best.
He was the best. Miss my dad.
He's a great man and always been so supportive, and I will miss him deeply.
He listened to every episode, and he liked that I liked Formula One, and he was learning about it. And he took us to the airport for Daytona, and then your dad took us around Daytona. I feel like our dads are very
supportive
of the podcast.
For sure.
He submitted a question before he passed away, and he was asking, he's like, do teams design fuel tanks specifically so they don't kind of slosh around?
Oh,
because if you're filling up your fuel tank at the beginning of the race, the weight will be in a certain area. By the end of the race, it won't be there.
Right.
Do they plan for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a really intricate question.
Yeah, he was getting into it. It was really fun.
Because fuel pickup is an issue in pretty much all road cars.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you've been in an accident or if you've spun out in the rain or in the snow before,
Mm-hmm.
you'll wonder why your car shut off. You'll be like, this is an automatic, it's modern. Why is the car off?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because the fuel pickup is in one point of the tank.
Okay.
And they call them a tank slapper. The gas will go to the other side of the tank away from the fuel pickup.
Okay.
And your car will starve and it'll shut off because it has no gas.
Oh, okay.
And then you have to turn it back on. You have to shut it all the way off and turn it back on and allow the fuel to prime and work. So yes, this is a part of the engineering of a Formula One and a race car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every race car is designed differently in how they manage this, and especially given a Formula One car that achieves 6G.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to plan on the fuel moving. In an F1 car, in a modern F1 car, the fuel is inside of a bag. It's not inside of a tank.
Oh.
And it sits under the driver.
Oh.
So it's kind of
weird.
Yeah, it's kind of in this very interesting
Ziploc bag
pocket. Yeah.
I'd be so worried about
It's
that
like
popping.
It's like a brown
just like
fuel
breaking.
bag.
Wow, yeah.
This is what ripped when Romain Grosjean snapped his car in half.
Oh, and
exposed race fuel
and fire
to a
everywhere.
turbo and an engine that's running at 200 something plus degrees, 300, thing went up in smoke, right?
Right.
So those, I don't know.
I'm impressed that you know so far. Like, yeah, you're just, you know everything. Keep going.
Nerd.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't know is because all of these teams have their own systems.
Mm-hmm.
They all have their own engineering to how their engines work and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the pickup of this is going to be the way that they do it in certain race cars is to put like baffles into the tank so that way it's not separating too much.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll have reserve tanks and reserve pickups so that way in case it goes to one area of the tank so aggressively that you still have an area that's picking up fuel.
Okay.
So they'll have like a separate bladder for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, with a modern Formula One car, I honestly would have to do research on how they're maintaining the fuel.
But the point of the bag,
yeah.
What is it?
It's just because the car, it makes it so the fuel tank itself is actually less volatile by being something that could break.
Okay.
Right. So when you have like a hard carbon fiber fuel tank, then if you have something like Carlos Sainz, who hits a sewer cover in Vegas and splits the chassis in half, you suddenly expose fuel to the ground below, to the engine.
Okay.
You get it everywhere, and then the car's on fire. But actually putting it into a very strong bag that's a little bit more malleable, you have a way greater chance of success that this thing doesn't rip and expose fuel to...
It can take kind of a bit more of a beating.
Right.
It can flex.
It's definitely not as, that flexible...
That's interesting.
...component, I think, is a big part of the safety.
That's interesting. Okay. A bag of fuel. But I am continually blown away at the engineering that is happening in these cars.
Yeah.
A great question, Matt. We'll miss you, Matt.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
We thank you, Matt. You've been a great supporter of the show and will continue to be. Side note, we can end with this. When I told Mike that my dad had passed away, we shared some really kind words and it was really nice. But then he reminded me of when we were starting out our podcast, we were very big Haas supporters.
Huge Haas supporters.
We still are.
Yes.
But the name of the show was more Haas themed.
The Haas Boys.
The Haas Boys. And
which you might see here every week.
Which is what inspired the Haas chap. He wasn't a boy from America. He was a chap from England. So yeah, there's our old sign, the Haas Boys.
This was us.
Yeah. And so we got an email one day. It says, this is from G. Steiner. There was an email and so it was from Gunter1 Steiner at haas@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I was losing my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is weird. This is crazy. And then it said, It said, gentlemen, I was introduced to your podcast by my son. I haven't listened to all your episodes yet, but my son considers your show not only fun, but knowledgeable. Our fans are important to us, and so we wondered if you would entertain a guest on your show. If our schedules line up, we could have Simone Resta, or perhaps if the topic was right, I could take a few minutes to be on your show. Would you be interested? Let me know at your earliest convenience, Gunter Steiner. And then it's like the Haas F1 like insignia logo.
Like a little logo at the bottom.
Yeah, and we were losing our minds.
Parker, I remember I was like driving, I think, when this happened.
Yeah.
And I remember Parker, who used to be on the Haas Boys with us, FaceTimed us all.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is a new first. Normally you do this, you know? And we're just like all on the phone, and just like, is this really happening?
Yeah, this
like,
is too early to happen.
And then as he read the email, I was like, I think Gunter has a daughter.
That was the one clue.
I was like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a son. I think it's a girl. I think he has a daughter.
We like responded being like, of course, we'd love to have you on the podcast. We do an interview over Zoom.
We were so prepared.
Yeah. And then it didn't go back to the email. Like the address wasn't found. And then Gunter responded, Max, this is your dad. Now I see this was a mean trick. I regret doing this now. Please forgive me. Love, Dad. Yeah. Yeah. So Mike reminded me that my dad had made a fake email as Gunter and sent it to the show, not really knowing much about Gunter. So he just said, yeah, my son.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really know about Gunter. So I
feel
was
like all of the steps.
Yeah.
When they say a criminal wants to be caught, they always leave some crumb trail.
Yeah.
To what the point, to find them.
Yeah.
That crumb trail was the sun. It was the only giveaway.
Yeah.
He had us.
It was fun.
It was so good.
My dad liked good jokes.
He did.
He liked the podcast.
Is just like you, in fact, in that way. So,
yeah. Well, thanks for letting me a little tribute to my dad at the end there.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I appreciate him.
Yeah, he'll be missed. I love my dad.
Definitely.
Well,
thank you.
That's
Thank you for listening
for
this week.
Yeah, and we'll catch you next time. Enjoy the Chinese Grand Prix.
We'll see you on the other side.
Wait.